we're going to cut it a little close. So, hey everyone, my name is Tracy. I am the Program Director at the Sexual Assault Resource Center.
And howdy everybody, my name is Brian Jackson. I'm Assistant Coordinator for CLEAR, which CLEAR is the Office of Consensual Language, Education, Awareness, and Relationships. And as a fun fact, I actually used to be a community director for Residence Life in both Leggett, McFadden, and FHK. So, yeah, I did. I got moved around a lot. All right, so we're going to get started. Today we're going to be talking to you about sexual assault, specifically how you as RAs will respond to sexual assault if it is something that comes up in one of your buildings. So we really want this to be a practical, like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, give me things to do, give me things not to do, give me like a set list of things that I need to accomplish when responding to a survivor of sexual assault. Before we do that, we're going to give you a quick review of some of the facts about sexual assault so you can have a better understanding of the topic.
So, has anybody ever had any type of sexual assault, sexual harassment, rape, crisis intervention training at all? Like ever? A little bit? I see some heads nodding yes, no. Okay. So this is probably one of the most complicated topics to ever talk about, and it's not the easiest to hear either. So if at any point in time anybody has any types of feelings or emotional it kind of hits a little close to home. Tiffany Long, she's a trained advocate with SARC, and she would be happy to speak with you if you kind of feelings come up. And that's kind of the same thing as an RA, especially when you're talking with your students and stuff, and letting them know, hey, I have an open door. It's not really an easy topic for anybody to talk about. So there is a difference between rape and sexual assault. Rape being forced sexual intercourse, any type, whether that's vaginal, anal, oral penetration, digital penetration, anything like that. Sexual assault, any unwanted sexual contact of any kind. That actually also includes attempted rape, sexual touching, fondling, anything like that. And a lot of times, sexual harassment will also fall under sexual assault. So, and these are the various types of sexual assault. It's a huge topic, and these are just some of the words that you may hear. Sexual harassment. This is a huge topic that not a whole lot of people ever talk about. Of course, all of these examples here, and I'm not going to read them to you, but anything unwelcome or unwanted, bottom line. If you feel uncomfortable with somebody making those, kind of sexual innuendos or catcalling, a lot of people, that happens, we hear about that happening all the time. That's a form of sexual harassment, and that's not tolerated. Especially anything, sending pictures, that's a huge one too. Acting inappropriately, and this could be your peers, supervisors, faculty, staff, anybody, students, anybody. What do you do if somebody is being sexually harassed or they come and talk to you about it? It's one of those, if you see or hear something, you do something about it.
So one thing about sexual harassment, very specifically, this is a very more casual job than probably almost any other job you'll ever have in your life. You tend to develop close personal relationships with your residents, your coworkers, and your supervisors, and that's okay. And that comes with some things like you might hug your coworkers or even your residents, and those things are fine, but making sure the other person is comfortable with it, because this is still your job and it's still a place of work. So if you do see someone being sexually harassed or you yourself feel sexually harassed, you have a couple of options, the easiest of which is going to your supervisor. They can always give you any sort of guidance that you might need, and they might be able to handle anything that is going on within your hall or within your staff. However, going to your supervisor may not always be an option in case maybe your supervisor is the one you feel harassed by. So there are some other options, whether that's going to the coordinator above your supervisor, or if you're in a graduate hall, going to the ABCD above your graduate hall director. You also, as employees, this is one RAs often forget, you have the ability to go to HR. Human Resources represents you as RAs as well, so if there's ever a situation you feel uncomfortable and you'd like to make a formal report, HR is available to you. How many know where your HR is located?
Halfway. Just got halfway.
I got some tentative hands. Where do you think it is? Yes. So they're out at the Gardens, that business services office in the community center, that is the HR for Residence Life. So if you ever have a situation where you're not sure and you want to talk to someone about it, they're available to you at any time.
Sexual harassment, best tools to eliminate it, empower people. Like Ryan said, this is stuff that is uncomfortable for people, it's unwanted, and if you're feeling that way, or if anybody comes up to you and says that they're feeling that way, try and empower them to give them all the options. And when we say empower, what does that mean? When we're talking about empowerment, giving that power, that control back to somebody, what does that look like? Absolutely, perfect answer. Yeah, giving that back, and we see that not just with sexual harassment, but with sexual assault and violence of any kind. When something like this happens to somebody, their power and control is taken from them. Their decision-making abilities are taken from them. Somebody took that from me, and how can I get that back? It comes along with self-confidence and your self-esteem and stuff like that. And empowering that person and giving them all the tools, kind of like what we're doing with you all today. We're giving you all these tools, and it's a lot to take in, but we're giving you information to take back with you to look through and empower others as well. And of course, prevention. You guys do programs, right? You guys do programs as part of, your monthly activities. This is a huge opportunity to let your students and other RAs and faculty and staff know that sexual harassment and sexual assault is not tolerated. Yeah. All right, we're gonna get you guys moving around a little bit. You guys are in here all day, right? So we're gonna get your blood flowing a little bit. So everybody stand up. And everybody is going to stand right down here in the middle, walkway. And basically what we're going to do, we're going to read, I'll read a statement. If you think this statement is a myth, you're going to come over to this side. If you think it's a fact, you're going to come over here. If you think it's a gray area, which as we all know, in a lot of decision-making abilities, there's a lot of gray area and stuff. You're going to stay right in the middle. Okay, everybody ready? Myths, facts, gray area. The primary motive for sexual assault is sexual. The primary motive for sexual assault is sexual. Myth, fact, gray. Okay, so where's kind of the divide? How many people we got? We got a myth.
I don't know.
Kind of halfway between?
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys are gray?
I feel like it is.
Nobody for a fact? Okay. This is a myth. So, 3 out of 5 offenders have access to consensual sex. The motive for sexual assault is actually power, anger, and sadism. Sexual assault is violence that has been sexualized, not violent sex. Does that make sense to you? All right. Alcohol, sorry, everybody can come back together, sorry. Alcohol is the #1 date rape drug. Myth, fact, gray.
In the gray area, this
Alcohol is the #1 date rape drug. So we got a lot of movement over for facts, right? You guys are all fact. Okay. So you're
If
good.
we hear from someone in the fact section, why do you think that's a fact?
the most convenient.
If you're drunk, you don't have the ability to I just thought of it more, like, yes, alcohol is more available to people, but you have to think of what is all out there, what people may use. I don't know
For sure.
what, if someone decides what type of favorite drug is.
It is a gray area. So, it's not necessarily the number one date rape drug. It's the most easily accessible for students. However, it is consumed voluntarily, most of the time. 90% of all campus rapes occur when alcohol has been used, either the offender or the survivor. College party settings, such as drinking games, can cause a person to drink more than ever before you even realize it. However, also what we're seeing in college campuses now, benzodiazepines, antidepressants, Rohypnol, those are still considered date rape drugs. And benzodiazepines, such as, you know, the Xanax and stuff like that, that is very accessible to students and young adults everywhere. So,
Essentially, it depends on your definition
Yeah.
of a date rape drug. Some people consider alcohol a drug, others do not.
so very good discussion. So we're going to. Okay. All right. All right. So everybody, come back to the middle. Most people who have been sexually assaulted tell no one about their assault and do not report it. Myth, fact, gray area. Ooh, lots of hesitation on this one. Does anybody want to share why there's a little bit of hesitation?
Because if you use the word most, it would mean that it would mean either a majority or almost a majority, so you can't really say that who wants to report it or who not. It's like, some people say that most people don't, but at the same time, you don't know.
But there is like a lot of statistical like evidence like just shows that like most don't, but like sometimes people do. So it's like in the gray area and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so wording plays a lot, and I get that.
I feel like most people wouldn't report it to observer figures. However, it's like when it comes to like close friends, more friends than family actually, people usually share those kind of things when they just like can't hold it in anymore.
That's a good point. This is a fact. 60 to 90% of sexual assaults go unreported, and an estimated 82% of sexual assaults here in Texas go unreported. That's a huge, huge number. Huge number. So, do we have time for one more? Okay. All right, one more. It couldn't have been rape. She was just making out with him earlier that night. It's just morning after regret. Don't get mad at me. Wow, okay, lots of myths. Okay, nobody for fact, right? Nobody's, okay. How about gray area? Why are we gray?
You don't know the full situation, what happened, like what she was doing, was she drinking, was she on drugs, did she get consent or not? You weren't there, so you didn't experience it.
Okay.
The other like it's like say like being in the right state of mind to say like I love you.
Yep. Consent must occur at each stage of a sexual encounter. So if you were making out with somebody earlier in the night, doesn't matter. It does not matter whatsoever. That does not mean that it's okay to go in the bedroom and do whatever you want. Consent last weekend is not consent today. Consent is everything. And actually, before you all leave today, we're going to give you some resources about consent. It plays a huge role in when people report. It plays a huge role in how people feel emotionally, physically, behaviorally, everything. So, very good discussion, guys. That was great. You guys can have a seat now.
One thing about that last one, there's a common perception that there are a lot of false guess what the actual percentage is for false reports of sexual assault?
32.
I hear 32, I hear 5. Any other guesses? 44?
Still pretty high.
5?
640, that's a
All right.
reasonable doubt, that's fake.
Who are my 5s? All right. The current percentage, according to the Department of Justice, is anywhere between 3 and 8% of sexual assault. So 5% is about right on the money. False reports of sexual assault are actually very rare. In fact, the false reporting rate for sexual assault is actually lower than the false reporting rate for theft and the false reporting rate for murder. So more thefts and murders that are reported are actually false reports than false reports of sexual assaults. Now, of course, a vast majority of sexual assaults don't go reported in the first place, but it's really a common misconception. You know, we tend to focus on the very small percentage of instances where there was a false report, and then when in reality they're the vast minority. Yes, sir.
That's really interesting, like, especially like what's going on right now with like the sexual assault being Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
He was like 25 to 50. Like,
Yeah.
And 2 of those have been proven false already.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
It becomes extremely controversial when the number of victims is completely escalated and everything. However, and we actually have experienced this as well at SART, but when somebody does make the decision to report, whether or not that person's case will go and be prosecuted, because a very, very, very small number of sexual assault cases are prosecuted. But why?
Because the victim is remaking or
Not knows that time, well, it's kind of, sort of.
They have a fear they won't win, and it's just a big publicity thing, and I think like everyone will realize that if it happens to them, they don't want publicity that goes along with it.
How many sexual assaults happen in the presence of anybody other than those two people? It's very difficult to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. However, there are so many various tools and resources that our law enforcement are amazing at utilizing. But we oftentimes will have somebody that reports, but their case might not be able to be prosecuted. They might not have sufficient evidence for that case. However, how many offenders then go on to offend somebody else? Big majority of them. So in the event it happens again, that person's name is in the system. This person's name is in there, and if anybody else reports it, then they're able to call in any past victims to come and make that case stronger. We have one person right now that's on trial, and the victim did not want to prosecute because she did not want to endure the longevity of it and everything. Because right now, honestly, and I hate even saying this, however, it's public knowledge. DNA sent to crime labs, it actually, on average, takes between 6 and 12 months to get that DNA back. And then we have to wait for it to hit in POTUS and all of the law enforcement databases. But because she didn't want to endure that, she said, I'm not going to prosecute, I just don't want to see this person anymore. Found out that he has 13 other cases of sexual assault. So the state went ahead and is prosecuting him for all 13. So there are definitely benefits to reporting and stuff. There is one other thing that I did want to bring up as one of the kind of circumstances. Sexual assault is provoked by the victim. How many think this is true? Sexual assault is provoked by the victim. Provoked. Never, ever, ever, no matter what is happening, no matter how much alcohol is consumed, what they're wearing, what medication they might be on, nobody ever, ever asks to be sexually assaulted. 71% of sexual assaults are actually planned in advance. and the victim can be picked out by this offender later. So, just something to think about. And we are gonna give you these myths and facts. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is April. So if you decide to do an additional program in April, we can provide any resources you might need, and I know Claire can as well. So, sorry.
So we want to talk to you quickly about some of the numbers behind sexual assault. These are some of the current estimates. 1 in 5 civilian women are estimated to be sexually assaulted or be the victims of attempted sexual assault at some point in their lifetime. That number skyrockets to 1 in 3 if they're in the military. Specifically in college, it's estimated 1 in 4 women who attend a university will be the victim of a sexual assault or attempted sexual assault. For men, that number is a lot lower. It's about 1 in 71 currently. So men, while they are the vast minority of survivors for sexual assault, they are still potential victims of sexual assault. Now, that's just on college campuses. For lifetime numbers, it's currently estimated that 1 in 10 men will experience sexual assault or attempted sexual assault. And a vast majority of those numbers come before the man is, when the man is under the age of 16. And there's actually been some more recent studies. I haven't had a chance to fully vet them, so that we put them in there, but newer studies suggest it might be closer to 1 in 8 or even 1 in 6. We already talked about how few sexual assaults get reported. For non-college individuals, it's currently estimated between 40 and 60% of sexual assaults go unreported, and it's estimated about 95% of sexual assaults that happen on college campuses go unreported. So the numbers at universities for lower reporting rates are much higher. Can anyone guess why this might be?
Or they might know that person has several friends and their friends know.
So I'm going to share a story, and I've had permission from this victim to share the story. She was a student here on campus, and while, and this was a while ago, she went through all the proper channels to make the report to the disciplinary team, student conduct office. It happened during a summer month, and she came back to school. He was her TA. Unfortunately, when, and A&M does an amazing job at the student conduct services and just everything that they do. They work so closely with UPD and everything, and they worked tirelessly with this particular student, and he ended up, getting in trouble for it and is no longer here. But she had to. It happened during summer. She didn't find out that, she was going to have to see him every other day. And imagine how that felt, and imagine walking into your class and there's the person that raped somebody that you care about. And he actually didn't end up leaving campus until end of September, beginning of October timeframe. So, and they worked tirelessly at trying to make sure all the proper steps were done and stuff. So, and she's had counseling and taking all those measures to make sure that she is taking care of herself as well. So, you just never know.
So definitely part of it is it's a closer knit community, so there's going to be a larger impact. The people that they see, the people they hang out with. Another underlying cause of this is there's kind of become a culture almost on college campuses that drunk, unknown one-night stands kind of happen, and a lot of times these sexual assaults get categorized in the survivor's head as well. This is just college. That's what happens. Or even if they felt like something was wrong, something wasn't right, they might be like, hey, well, I just had a one-night stand. It was just a bad hookup. I don't even want to go forward with this. So part of it is even just well as some of the more sensationalized cases of false reports have happened on college campuses. So things like Jameis Winston or the University of Virginia, people tend to look at those and go, well, that person reported and now they're being blasted in the media for reporting, so I really don't want them to be a part of that.
Which, I'm also going to say, what happens in the media and like television shows, it's not real life. It's not behind the scenes and everything. People are working so hard to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. And you guys, by taking the step to become RAs and stuff, and I was also an RA, and it's such a powerful life lesson. You know, think about it. Why did you become an RA? You know, what's the biggest reason why do you want to become an RA? Help people. Why'd you become an RA? Help people. Why'd you want to become an RA? Underlying motivation, right? I doubt there's any of you that really can say, oh, I didn't want to help people. Well, let me just become an RA. No. You want to reach out, you want to make a difference in somebody's experience here in college. And I applaud you guys, it's awesome. And we're happy that you guys are open to us coming here because it happens all the time. And it's not easy to do. So thank you for listening.
You guys are much better at RAs than I was. I wanted to discount housing. All right.
Rape culture, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because we're running short. But rape culture, perpetrators of sexual assault should not be considered monsters. I totally wanted to make this statement, but I couldn't, because I wanted to know why you guys thought, sexual assault offenders are always talked about as monsters. But clearly there's the answer. Monsters are not people. Just like when you hear about, who kills somebody else. People kill people, right? People have choices, right? People have choices not to do something, okay? People can be held accountable for their actions. Monsters can't. So, this, and I don't know if you guys can read your names, but this CNN really focuses on all the negativity that people really talk about in the media. How often do you hear good things that are going on in the world, right? Like when you sit down at a restaurant, and this is so not even comparable, but just that thought, like, how many of you sit down at a restaurant, you have amazing service, exceptional service, but that manager doesn't know, that manager hears anything that this server's doing badly, right? How many of you make it a point that if you have some really great service at a restaurant to tell this person's manager that, hey, this person went above and beyond, right? So this is highlighting one of those aspects. All the negativity that's going on, not one word about it. Not one word. All the focus is on the negative star football players. Their life fell apart, juvenile court, still sounds like 16-year-olds, the immaturity factor, all that kind of stuff. Not one time was a victim mentioned in any capacity. So yeah, that's rape culture. Again, this is, the reason we put some of these on here is because how many of you are on social media? Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, like 5 million other social media aspects. So this has been huge in the media, right? The signs on, most often we see on the ones hanging down on fraternities, and stuff like that. The memes that are like all over social media. I have to tell you, we do education outreach to community members and schools and organizations, and we always ask them, what's your biggest issue in this school going on right now? What's the number one thing they say? Nope. social media. Social media, so Snapchat. How many have Snapchat? Oh, so Snapchat's huge. You know, it's only on there for 5-10 seconds, right? Wrong. No. Yep. What'd you say? Screenshot. But I screenshotted it, so it gets you get notified, right? Wrong. There's now apps out there to negate. Yep, see? That was, are you thinking about some pictures you've been honestly though, so, and do you know how we found that out? From 14 and 15-year-olds, from high schoolers that we went and presented at. They told us about these apps that now, oh no, it doesn't notify you if we screenshot something. Okay. So now the schools are saying the biggest problem is they have those apps, they screenshot them, and then other peers are posting that to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all these other things. And then it starts a whole nother cycle of what? Sexual harassment, potential sexual assault, cyberbullying, bullying. So you can see how this plays a huge impact in the roles. So yeah, you might just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty positive that no sexual assault victims are female. But what if it were to happen the other way around, if it was male? Would it be like a different approach or like a different?
So to give you some numbers, 95% of sexual assaults are committed by men. That's the current estimation. So it is true the vast majority are committed by men, but there are those that are committed by women as well. But men need the same kind of support that women do. Male survivors, they get the same resources. We treat them largely the same. Just a few things might change, whereas female survivors often only want to talk to other women. They might not want to talk to a male advocate, like a male survivor might want to talk to a male advocate instead, but largely it stays about the same.
The only difference is we do accompaniments to hospitals for rape kits and law enforcement when they want to report and stuff. And actually 2 weeks ago, I went to the hospital with a male victim. The only difference, everybody's treated equally no matter what age, race, religious background, gender, non-gender conforming. Everybody's treated the same. The only difference is the way the forensic exam is done. Because there are some things with females that can happen, but with males that they can't. Just because of human anatomy. But you know, all the services stay the same. All of the resources, everything's the exact same.
So now we're getting into more of your role with sexual assault on campus. So when a survivor might come to you and reveal that they've been sexually assaulted.
Okay, that's right.
So one of the sheets you've been given is a common reactions after sexual assault. So we wanted to just kind of cover some of these because it's important to realize that no two situations are going to be the same, and survivors can react with a gambit of emotions. So whether they're over emotional, they feel embarrassment, self-blaming, shame, these are all very common reactions. But sometimes ones that aren't on this list can happen. The very first time I responded to a sexual assault as an advocate, the woman I met was hysterically laughing. And she kept making self-deprecating jokes about what had happened to her and about herself. And it really took me off guard because when you're trained, you think like, whoa, this isn't what a survivor should look like. But she was a survivor, she was a victim of sexual assault. And it's important that just because they're not reacting in a way that you think that they should, doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So it's very important to just let the survivor, express it and deal with it in whatever way he or she needs to. So what do I do now? So this is where we're going to give you some very tangible, practical, like how-tos, do-nots of when a student comes up to you and says, "Hi, RA, I was just sexually assaulted a handout you're given. It's titled, "What Do I Do Now?" It's going to contain in detail all the things that we're going to cover. The first thing we want to talk about, just big picture, what are the goals of the conversation? So what are you hoping to get out of this conversation with the survivor? First and foremost, your goal is to get them help. You want to make sure they feel supported. You want to make sure they feel that they're heard. You want to get them to the proper resources. You are not the proper resource. Like, you are a good first point of contact, but you alone cannot help this person. You need to get them in contact with other people who can help them, because it's just too much burden to put on you. You also don't have the training or experience to do it yourself. So first things is make sure you are getting the survivor the help they need. Now, you will provide somewhat of what we call emotional triage. So you're going to be that first point of contact. You need to be asking, are you okay? Are you injured in any way? You may need to QPR them. You may need to, which, have they gotten QPR yet? They don't have QPR. You'll get QPR later. QPR is essentially making sure that they're not a harm to themselves. They aren't thinking about hurting themselves in any sort of way. So you're going to do that emotional sort of triage, but you are not a therapist. You're not there to be in the long-term care for them. You're just giving them that immediate, oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened. How can I help you? You are going to have to maintain or establish trust with the survivor. So usually you already have some sort of relationship with the survivor. Being the first point of contact is a huge act of trust on the part of the survivor. Most people won't just tell their RA because they're the RA. They're going to talk to them because they feel like, you know what, I know this person, I have a relationship with this person, and I trust that they can help me. So it's very important that you maintain that trust, or if it is on the off chance, it's just a resident on your wing, and the reaction was, I'm going to find the RA because they're the person in power and they don't really know do that well, you might have to establish some trust with them. And finally, you are going to have to fulfill your responsibilities as a mandated reporter. Your next presentation is on Title IX, and that's the law that requires that universities handle sexual assaults. And one of the parts of Title IX is it makes you what's called a mandated reporter. So you must, if you are aware of a sexual assault, you must tell your supervisor. That is a requirement. So it's important that you fulfill all those duties, because if you do not, A&M can get into a very huge legal trouble with the Department of Education. So even though that might not feel like supporting the survivor at the moment, you do need to report anything that you do here. You guys have a question?
That's not about saying anything, that's what's in there. I don't want to continue further down.
Yes. So we'll go through some of the to-dos and to-don'ts in a little bit, but one of those is definitely letting them know that you are a mandated reporter and that you are going to have to let your supervisor know.
Okay, so things you are not. Super, super easy. You're not a detective. You're not going to do any investigative work. You're not a judge. You're not a jury. You're not a therapist or counselor, although some might be studying for it. And I got a problem solver. This is the biggest one that always comes up. Because when somebody comes to you and they talk to you about a problem that they're having, or say, I think I might have been raped last night, immediately, like, we jump to, okay, so now I have to tell this person, okay, are you safe? Like, we need to get you a protective order, like, right away, we want to, like, solve and fix this problem, right? That's why we want to help people. Not in these circumstances. They come to you to get something off their chest. They trust you. They believe in you, so they want you to believe them. Okay, so being an active listener rather than a problem solver is what you're going to do.
We're going to give you a few practical things to do in your conversation with the survivor. So this is maybe not the most important thing, but it's definitely one of the first things you want to do. As soon as the conversation starts to take a turn where you think this might be a person about to tell me that they were sexually assaulted, you want to make them aware of your status as a mandated Even if you are afraid that this will shut them down, they won't want to tell you what happened, that is fine. It's very, very important that the survivor feels like they feels like they can trust you and feels like they are heard. And if, they tell you all these things and then at the end of the conversation you say, okay, now I'm gonna have to tell these other people everything you just told me, that can take away all trust that you've established. So one of the first things you want to do, even before they say it, even if you just think it's heading that direction, you can stop them and say, so I'm a mandated reporter for the university. If you tell me anything having to do with any sort of sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking situation, I am going to have to let my supervisor know. I'm here for you, I want to support you, but I want to let you know that if that is where this conversation is going, that's what I'm going to have to do by law.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of that because SARC does not operate under those same laws. So we are strictly confidential. Whether somebody phones our 24/7 hotline or comes and talks to us in person, we are not allowed to disclose anything unless we have a written consent from them. So y'all are mandated reporters. So if you tell them, hey, I'm a mandated reporter, just feel like it's heading that way. You have resources, our information on the bag, and stuff like that. They're more than able to call us if they don't want to have it reported and stuff like that. So
Next, and probably the most important part of this, is please believe them. There will be a process later with an investigation and determining whether or not the sexual assault happened. That is not your job. Just take whatever they say and say, I'm so sorry that happened. Make sure they feel like you actually believe them. Because again, this is all about trust. And if they feel like you're skeptical or you don't believe, even if you don't, in the moment, make them feel believed. Make them feel like everything they're saying is completely legitimate and that you're going to do everything you can to help them. So a big part of this conversation, if you can, is trying to return power back to the survivor. So sexual assault is one of the ultimate ways of taking power and control away from a person. Survivors usually feel very vulnerable and out of control of their own lives. So one thing you can do to help return power back to them is ask permission to do just about anything. If you, when you come to the room, say, may I come in? If they ask, may I sit down? May I do this? May I ask you this? The more opportunities you give them to be in control and make decisions, the more in control they will feel. So it's a very small thing you can do to help survivors feel more at ease. Let the survivor be the lead in the conversation. Again, not a detective. It's not important that you get all the information, so just let the survivor speak. If they can tell you as much or as little as they want to, again, they should be the ones in power. They should be the ones in control. If you can, we want you to try your best to remain calm. Emotionally, survivors are going to be in a very fragile state, and if they see that you're freaking out, they might start to freak out as well. However, we want to recognize that's not always possible. This is a lot we're asking you to do. So there's a couple tactics you can use. I'm very partial to deep breathing, so if you need to take a moment, take a few deep breaths, please do that. Also, understand your limits. If this is something that you know that you just can't handle, try to avoid getting into these conversations altogether. Say like, I really want to help you, but here's my coworker, and they would be able to help you more. Be aware of your facial expressions and body language. Again, prepare for a wide range of reactions. Any survivors are all different. And once there is a normal break in conversation, excuse yourself to go call the GHD on duty.
fine. It's on your paper and we're kind of out of time, but I really just want to point out a couple of the things not to do. Never ever victim blame. We went over that a little bit. Nobody ever asks for this to happen to them, so in any of the words that you're saying or anything, steer clear of, well, what were you wearing? Well, how much did you have to drink? Not important. Does not matter. And the other thing is like how your body language is and stuff like that. Like if I come down here and I'm like, gosh, is she gonna wanna tell me if I'm like right up? No, it's not gonna work. So making sure that you're nonverbal, like your eyes don't like pop out of your sockets and you're hearing some of the stuff that's happened. And although you might want them to, because of some of the stuff you might hear, just be aware of, let them know you're listening, the okay, soft tones and eye contact, stuff like that.
We are out of time, but so these are some phrases to avoid. Quickly, we want to tell you what the different options are for survivors. Calling up is required for you as RAs. Calling UPD is an option if they want to pursue the legal route. Going to the hospital is great because they can treat injuries, STIs, give emergency contraception. They can also help by doing a rape kit, so they can help the legal route. And then you can also go to SARC, which is a completely confidential source.
I will let you know, SARC does have a 24/7 hotline. I know you guys have crisis hotline here as well. We have trained advocates and staff on that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also do accompaniments to the hospitals, law enforcement agencies, court proceedings, anything like that. We try and stay with that victim or the survivor through the whole length of their process and stuff like that. So, and everything's confidential unless they tell us they're going to harm themselves or somebody else, or child abuse neglect.
On the back, you have a list of resources. All those resources have people who are trained on these topics and can help the survivor. And their contact information is on there as well. Happy to do that. And finally, we have a campaign on campus called the Step In Stand Up campaign. It's Texas A&M's commitment to fighting sexual violence. For more information, you can go to stepinstandup.tamu.edu for more information on how to get involved. That is our presentation. We're going to give our materials to your supervisors. So if you have any more questions about something like this, because they are very important, we know it's a lot, you'll be able to talk to your supervisors about it in full time.
Do you guys have any questions before we go?
So this is one of the doctors that you can actually
Yes. Because essentially you guys are mandated reporters, so anything that they come and tell you, you would have to report. So it's the same thing. So you're representing A&M, and in any role on A&M property and stuff like that, you're a mandated reporter. So you
Even
have
if they're
to-
not an A&M student.
Exactly.
Even if they're not an A&M student, they're a reporter.
And I think Kristen's gonna go into more about, you're talking about more mandated with Title
Christine and
IX.
Kyle are gonna talk about that.
Yeah,
Talk
you'll get
about
that
the entire
tomorrow.
broadly, yeah.
So they'll cover that in a lot more detail, and stuff like that, but essentially, bottom line, since you guys are mandated reporters, yeah. She just passed out, a pen, who doesn't like a pen? It's got our contact information in there. Also, some of our SARC stuff, if you need these for any programs that you guys are doing, just call us up, we can get some over to you. We're gonna leave these for you guys as well. Signs of sexual assault, consent, I know those were some big questions and stuff like that. Consent and some information about sexual assault. These are awesome materials to give to your students. And we actually specifically designed one specific for A&M. So, Clear uses those all the time as well. So, if you guys have any questions, my name's Tracy. You have my phone number, like on probably like 4 different places now. So just look at your pen. That's where you can find me, and you can find Ryan.
I'm at the Clear office, which is on the resources on the back. All right.
Thank